Now we got our January deer fails out pretty late. I think, was that today? No, it was yesterday, so January 30th. So it was a little late. We're getting this February one out a lot earlier. And again, we talk about these fails because it's always best to learn from other people's mistakes. Sometimes we can't help it. We've all touched a hot pot on the stove, for example. That's how we know it's hot. But when it comes to habitat management and the expense of time and money that you can waste, we want to make sure we save that and make sure that you're on the right path with your habitat improvements. And you can bet if I'm recommending it, it's because I think it's going to work for myself and my clients. Again, you know, Dylan and I, with what we do with clients and going to Habitat, and then Kevin Smith soon over in Ohio and Pennsylvania, we get paid to be right. And it doesn't mean we're always right. What it means is we always strive to be right. And you can bet if we're recommending it, it's because we wholly believe in something and we believe it enough to recommend it to you, our clients face to face, in any writings, videos that we do. And so we'll just jump right into it. Number one, and this is something that I've had trouble with in the past. Now, with so many clients and so much work to do on my own property, it's right here at the house. I won't tell you exactly what we did, but Dylan and I just ran out for a quick little exercise right now out on the property. We were actually yesterday, we had a big burn pile. We're burning habitat that'll help, or burning, not habitat, but burning stumps, logs, and a food plot so that we can increase the habitat and the food plot in that area. We're pushing it over the side, so we'll create some space. So there's always something we're doing out on the land every single day, it seems like. And what I'm hoping that doesn't turn into a lot, what's happened to me in the past, I remember this happened in the UP of Michigan. I had my beagles up there, so I'd run rabbits a lot, snowshoe hare. So that got me outside a lot, but it's so easy to become a midwinter blob. And what I encourage you to do is just get out on your land. It doesn't matter if you're scouting public land or you're working on your private land. It's amazing how getting out for just a few hours can rejuvenate you. And it's easy to get pulled down by the Midwinter Blues. It's really there's such a thing as that. I can remember when I was living in Munising, and I'm not kidding, I was at the bank, People's State Bank up there in Munising, and all the tellers ran to the window to see the little glimmer of sunlight that was coming through the clouds. And I don't think the sun had shone in Munising for about 3 weeks. It was probably a late December, January time, where you get those pesky lake effect snows coming out of the northwest. Every single day you get an inch, 3 inches of snow, just a dusting. And so it's easy when you're not seeing sunshine, if you get a lot of clouds, if you're in an area with a lot of snow, then boy, getting out in the woods is not only great for the soul, great for your mind, also your body, but boy, it's just great for learning and getting out and trying to soak in your woods and plan for the future. And to me, it's helping set the table. As opposed to waiting to springtime, everyone gets out. Everyone's looking for shed rallies, getting out looking for sheds. But getting out the woods before that time, whether it's a hike on your land or somewhere else, is a great way to spend February and making sure you don't turn into a midwinter blob like I have in the past. Number two, and this is an important one, falling for fad orders. What I mean by that is you can't wait. I know a lot of people it's so many comments from subscribers and from people who are just watching the videos. I see a lot of people that they're first-time landowners, or they're looking at their land a different way. There's a Naomi that she talked about. She's in northern Minnesota, and I believe she's looking at her husband's land, and they're both working as a team. It's an inherited land. It was the father's, and they just can't wait to get into that land with a new set of eyes. I think it's 86 acres. So they're looking forward to taking all these concepts and applying it, and it's completely different from what they've done for the last 20 years. And then I get the stories of the new people that just purchased land, and I love hearing that. But bottom line is, it's easy to look at this stuff on YouTube or online, on social media, and say, I have to do that. I have to buy that. And it's easy to fall victim to those fads. A lot of times, you know, a fad, you never heard of it. You never heard of it, all of a sudden you're starting to look at it, people get all excited about it. But you start to look really deep into it, and you'll see that the salesperson is the one pushing it, the owner of the company, or one of their partners. Look at the partner. Look at the person that's really adamant that this works. He's even going against other people on there. Look back at his home page. They'll say who he works for. What that means is he's going to put up every Tom, Dick, and Harry that he's partnered with as a, quote, pro partner or sponsored individual of this company. They'll put that company there, and he's getting some free product to talk about it, and you've fallen victim to what they have to say almost as a used car salesman. Also, a lot of times it's too good to be true. We're going to apply these 7 secrets to a bedding area and you're going to attract every bed in the area to this buck bed. I've even heard an individual say that they were going to attract by, if you do these 7 things down in the brush country of Texas, then you're going to attract every buck within miles to that buck bed. Folks, it's not the way it works. A lot of this stuff takes time, at least hard work, and it takes direction. And there's a good example, some things over here that each have their place in the habitat management. Miscanthus grass, for example. We've stopped $3,400, $3,500 orders, $3,000 plus orders from clients that are ordering miscanthus grass, and they're going to plant them in 12 to 18 inch spacing, 5 rows, half-mile long, because they're looking at creating a border that they really only needed to be 6 feet tall. Well, then switchgrass is going to accomplish the same thing for about $50 and an hour's worth of time. That's including chemicals with a half-acre strip like that. So there's a lot of other things. Sometimes even conifers might beat the trick. Miscanthus grass is great though under power lines. A lot of times that's your only choice along a roadside. Miscanthus grass can be a great opportunity to screen and block from the outside when you need that height, but you can't plant trees, shrubs. Switchgrass is too low and you're under a power line. Chestnuts. We've both seen, Dylan and I, he brought that up. Dylan, I think you saw it today.
Yep.
What'd the ad say?
It's an ad for chestnuts. I don't even know the company, but it just says something along the lines of, are you still wasting your time planting food plots? Because you could have chestnuts. I'm like, no way.
Yeah, which is crazy because, you know, if we thought that's all it took, we would recommend chestnuts 100% of the time everywhere we go. But unfortunately, we like to see you plant an attraction on your land that can actually build a deer herd to find a deer movement on a daily basis from beginning in late August and then traveling through at least into January. Chestnuts drop in most states September, October, November at the latest. And so you can't direct the rut, let alone the entire deer season. And deer love to gobble them up. They're incredible. They're very attractive. They can produce a lot of nuts, a lot of tonnage in a small area. And they can be a great addition to an otherwise great food program, including food plots. Your food plots are always going to be your base. Chestnuts can add to that. Soft mass can add to that. But soft mass and chestnuts alone cannot be your food. Mass crop of oaks, the acorns that they provide, cannot be your food source alone. Hardwood regen cannot be your food source alone on private land. It can on public land. It needs to be on private land as a complement to the food source because that's what deer feed on during the daylight hours. And then about an hour before dark, they head to the food plots. That's how you build that program. Switchgrass, we talk about it all the time. Switchgrass is outstanding. But if you don't have a plan, if you haven't prepared the soil, if you have no plans to prepare the area and get rid of weeds, if you have no plans for maintaining that switchgrass, then why plant it? It's a great product. Some people are buying switchgrass right now like they were gobbling up toilet paper in the early days of COVID. You just got to stockpile because it's going to run out. So people are buying switchgrass like they were trying to stack their car full of rolls of toilet paper because it was going to run out pretty soon. It's the same scenario. Same with buckwheat. A lot of people are buying buckwheat. They have no idea how to use that. They just heard that some weird habitat person online is talking about buckwheat, and I can call myself weird. I can make fun of myself. And so they go buy buckwheat. And they have no plan. They don't even know how to use it or why to use it, what it is. And people even say, I'm using buckwheat, I'm doing this. It sounds pretty cool, but it's just something that they're getting sucked into because they're not taking proper information and translating it into an actual plan to use that product. Hinge cutting is a big one. We recommend hinge cuts maybe on 20-25% of all parcels. And it does have its place. It is certainly a great tool in the toolbox of habitat management. Anyone who says otherwise, I could say isn't really a true habitat manager. Anyone who says that you have to use hinge cuts all the time isn't really a true habitat manager. There's balance with everything. It's like the discussion of too many does. There's a balance of does and bucks that you need to have. The more does you have, the fewer bucks you have. There's a balance you need to achieve. There's a balanced amount of does to give you the optimum number of bucks. Hinge cutting is a tool. Miscanthus grass is a tool. Chestnut trees, switchgrass, but not all the time. They can suck your dollars out right now. And this is a great time to do it because, again, a lot of people, myself in the past included, are becoming February blobs. They're sitting around not doing much. They're watching a lot of YouTube, a lot of social media channels, and it's easy to get sucked into fads that won't really help you in the end. Number 3, too much detailed bedding work. If you're going into a bedding area with a tank of chainsaw gas and you're not covering at least a half acre of cutting with a tank of chainsaw gas, you're probably doing it incorrectly unless you have a lot of small pole timber that you have to cut down. You need to knock the big shade canopy down first, and then you can work on some detail work if you have enough time later. And that includes opening up those areas so deer can actually move through there. So you go into an area, you have a tank of chainsaw gas, which lasts about an hour and 25 minutes of cutting. Knock down some timber for 45 minutes, an hour, you probably cut down a half acre. Then you're going back and clearing it up, making little passageways so deer get through it, and then you're moving on to the next spot. If you're spending a lot of time tying down, believe it or not, there's people out there that will rake deer beds. Think about it. If deer needed to rake their deer beds to actually have a place to bed, they'd have a built-in rake or something. They would actually need to do it themselves, but obviously deer bed everywhere that whitetails roam, and they don't need their deer beds raked out, and they certainly don't need a bedding log in there. Bedding log is a requirement of failed bedding areas that don't provide enough side cover and side regeneration because they're relying on high hinge cuts for cover, which doesn't create that side cover and side food and regeneration that deer crave. Number 4, relying on late February sign. And you can go by March sign, April sign. We can do this every month, especially when it gets into these midwinter to late winter times. As we talk about, the best time to scout whitetails is right after the season ends. That's when sign that you find applies to the actual hunting season the most. The further you get into the end of February and into March, in most areas, just average areas, because in the UP of Michigan, you could have deer that yard in middle of December and late December. So when you're looking at deer sign that you find in late December, it might only be reflective of yarding and migration patterns, which do not apply to the deer season. So it could even happen earlier. But especially when you get into late February, the sign that you find is typically reflective of midwinter patterns, midwinter food sources, midwinter cover sources that aren't typically preferred during the fall and during the hunting season. I remember a habitat manager, I was talking to someone down in Illinois, and they were so proud they found over 50 sheds in a big brassica plot in Illinois. Well, those deer were all there in and around there, and he had winter cover of conifer. So in a bad winter, the deer were just piled into that in a big deer area. But those deer and that person, they're not there during the fall, and they don't shoot the bucks that are dropping those antlers during the winter time because they're finding those antlers in winter cover, not hunting season cover. And when you get into late February, you're finding a lot of winter cover that doesn't apply to the hunting season. Number 5, premature shed hunting. Now, when you start to get into the end of February in most areas, there's a pretty high percentage of antlers that are dropping. We still see antlers holding typically every year into early April. Something still got some antlers hanging on. Right now, I would estimate, again, it's January 31st today. I would estimate that 20% of the antlers have dropped, 25. What would you say, Dylan?
I don't think it's that much yet. I think it's pretty light yet.
We're seeing a lot with 2 down, but we're seeing a whole bunch of 3-year-olds, even 4, 5, 6-year-olds that have both. So it might be 15%, but it's not half. And a lot of people are running out to the woods looking for sheds, and then you're spooking the deer that are there. And when deer go find winter cover, winter food, they go a long ways to find it. We were driving in on the expressway today, and I saw a big pile of deer, and that would be about 3 miles east of here. And I wondered how many bucks or how many deer are ones that were from our property here. We're holding a lot of deer right now. We're holding a lot of bucks, but I don't think there's very many deer in between our property and over that way to the east. So you could look at it and say it makes sense that some of the deer that are here are probably over there. Some of the deer that are over there might be over here. The bottom line, there's not much in between. So when we spook them from here, where do they go? They could go a mile to the southwest over here. They could go 2-3 miles to the east, but they're not just going over 100 yards waiting for you to stop moving and coming back. So if you expect to find sheds more in mid-March, you might want to wait till the end of February, but early March is a great time. That's why most of the shed rallies are early March, somewhere around there, where people are going out in big troves and looking for sheds each year. So it pays to not spook them off the land. And of course, we have 8 to 10 inches of snow in the woods right now, even more with the drifts, couple 2-3 feet in some areas. So there's a lot of antlers that are under the snow. So I'd really like that snow to dissipate a little bit so that when we go out, we're actually making a good coverage, because you can put miles in the same area And if it's covered with snow, you're going to miss a lot of antlers. Number 6, miss frost seeding opportunities. What I mean by that, a lot of times in February, we get a really good, they talk about a January thaw. Well, in February, you get a lot of melts, meaning that the snow might even get some kind of rain shower. The snow is gone. You have that week or two of opportunity where it's a perfect time. If you do have a plan and you're frost seeding switchgrass, maybe clover in some areas, whatever it might be, but especially when it relates to switchgrass, what we do, what we frost seed a lot. Great opportunities in February when that snow opens up, the ground is exposed, get that seed on the ground, and that is the perfect time for frost seeding, as opposed to waiting for March and when everything's thawing, everything's melting, and you're actually getting into a quick spring green up in areas like southern Illinois, southern Indiana, southern Ohio, and over into southern portions of Pennsylvania, the East Coast, certainly West Virginia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and those areas where you get a little bit earlier spring. Kansas, Missouri would be in that area too. So really think about great times for frost seeding. Don't miss it. And we can come up with a lot of other February fails, but we'll leave some for March because there's a lot of winter fails that take place just because it's winter time. And I hope you guys are on the right path. We're also going to have our February deer chores. And it's not just do the opposite of these things. There's actually a lot that you can do that we're doing. And we're continuing to make rabbit huts. I know it has nothing to do with deer, but we actually have some trail cameras on those rabbit huts. I'll try to get Dylan to work some of those pictures in this video. But we're having a lot of fun with that, and we're making those adjacent to a lot of our switchgrass areas. And you can bet those deer will love browsing on them when they go by those areas too. And it's also because it's along our switchgrass edging, we're creating a lot of low hinge cuts in those areas that go over those pallets, those 3 pallets we're putting on the ground, and that's creating a wall of impenetrable brush, except for small game like rabbits, that not only cannot predators get through there, deer aren't getting through there, but they can't see us, deer that are on the other side. They can't see us through the switchgrass, through our cuttings that are adjacent to that. So we accomplish a lot with those. And there's a lot to do in February. We'll talk about that in our deer chores, but there's a lot to avoid in February. We want to make sure that you're avoiding those failures of February, March, April, and beyond as we deliver these to you each and every month. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.